Hello, everybody. It's about midday on Sunday, February 8th. We actually have a little bit of active weather coming into the state of Utah this week for a change. Let's take a couple minutes and talk through what's heading our way. Last handful of days here, we've been stuck under this pretty high amplitude ridge. I'll draw the axis here as you can see. It's just been parked over the western US and up into the Canadian Pacific coast. Finally, over the next few days, this is going to start to break down and allow a little bit more rain and snow into the state of Utah, which we are sorely needing. All right, so here's how this is gonna look for us. Let me get rid of that. So we've already got a little bit of a trough up here, kind of Montana, Canada, that's moved through over the last 12 hours or so. This has done quite a lot to suppress the ridge. It's not going to bring any tangible weather here to Utah, but what it is going to do is pave the way for subsequent troughs to dig just a little bit deeper. And so by Monday, we'll have another system that's kind of just tickling the northern parts of Utah here, trying to make an impact on our weather. It's not a direct hit, but it will do more to kind of shunt this ridge off to the west, off towards the central U.S., and then allow for more troughing to develop over California, kind of Wednesday into Thursday. All right, so let's take a little bit more of a zoomed-in view here of how these incoming features are going to affect our weather. On Monday, I mentioned that system was going to kind of miss us to the north, just graze the north part of the state. You can see that reflected here. We are expecting a bit of a band of rain and snow to develop along a cold front. It'll look fairly intense right when it arrives in the north part of our state Monday morning, but through the day, here we are at Monday evening. You can see with most of that trough and most of the associated lift kind of missing us to the north to Wyoming, that band doesn't hold together very well. It really struggles to penetrate south into the state in any sort of coherent condition. So as a result, we're really not expecting a whole lot in the way of impacts on Monday. Eventually, though, as we get a little bit more kind of southwest flow aloft, and I'll show you that here. We get some southwest flow aloft developing by late Monday night into Tuesday morning. You see these wind barbs kind of out of the southwest there. That will at some point force the cold front to stall and begin to lift back northwards. And as it does, let me get rid of my drawing. As it does, we are expecting to see a little bit of like a sort of rebirth of shower activity along the front. This will now be a warm front lifting northward. So kind of early Tuesday morning through the day on Tuesday, expect to see at least some mountain snow shower activity and maybe even some valley rain kind of for the northern half of the state. Again, this is not going to be a super cold port of the storm. We're not really expecting super intense snow impacts from this either, but I do think a lot of the higher elevations portions of the northern half of the state will have at least a little bit of road snow as this happens. Then we end up here. This is now Wednesday morning, and we got fairly strong, fairly deep southwest flow kind of coming from the more mild parts of Southern California up into Utah. This is like a classic southwest flow setup for us. It's kind of going to be like a really weak atmospheric river, and I could probably show you something to make that clear as well here. Okay, so this is a product that we call integrated vapor transport. It basically just highlights areas where a lot of water vapor is moving through the air rather quickly. And so I showed you that there's kind of a deep belt of southwest flow moving from sort of the Baja California area into Utah, sort of Tuesday into Wednesday. And this is going to be the result. So you can see here we are, this is about midnight Tuesday night, and there's a nice little swath of enhanced vapor transport into Southern California. As I move into Wednesday, you'll see kind of the scraps of that starting to push into Utah. This is not any sort of super strong atmospheric river event, but it will have the character of those types of storms. I'm sure you've dealt with those before, so you'll kind of know what I'm getting at with that one. So yeah, Wednesday, a little bit of an AR event. It's not going to be a super organized, giant blob of precip or anything like that, but fairly widespread shower activity, fairly mild temperatures with kind of higher snow levels. The most widespread precip this week is going to happen Wednesday into Wednesday night, and you can see there's not like any sort of organization to this, just a bunch of blips all over. Pretty much the entire state should get in on the fun at some point. So to recap, here's what we're looking at for the next several days. Monday, we have a very weak cold front moving into Region 1, mostly Region 1, and maybe a little bit into Region 2. This is probably going to be not a big snow producer. I'm thinking maybe an inch or two for Logan Summit, maybe Upper Logan Canyon. I could see like Powder Mountain, Monte Cristo getting a little snow. Maybe the Cottonwoods will pull down an inch or two. But most of the mid-elevation routes, probably not going to get much snow. Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday to Tuesday afternoon is a little bit more interesting. I think all areas above 7,000 feet in regions 1, 2, and 3 should at least be somewhat prepared for a little bit of accumulating snowfall. Um, and then the most important couple of days of the forecast is going to be Wednesday into Wednesday night, maybe lasting as long as Thursday morning. Yeah, snow levels are going to be pretty high for that, but at least most mountain routes across the state should be expecting at least some snow. So we'll get a little more details on that as we approach in the next couple of days. But I think probably most areas above 7,500 feet are going to be getting plowable snow from that. And then I think the valleys are going to stay a little too mild for any appreciable snowfall. Of course, we'll have to do any updates if that's not going to be the case. But at this point, it really seems like things are going to stay just a little bit too mild for any sort of Wasatch Front snowfall impacts. All right, so I know the video is already getting a little bit on the long side, but I did want to take a sec to discuss the longer term outlook because it's actually something worth talking about for once. So here is one of the models that we usually look at when we're trying to do longer term forecasting. This down here over the Four Corners area is the storm that's going to be responsible for our Wednesday night, Thursday rain and snow. Getting out of here, finally moving off towards the central U.S. And then you'll see as we get into the later parts of the weekend, so this is Sunday evening, really through much of the week. Really through most of the work week. There's a fairly strong signal for for a long wave trough to develop over the western U.S. This is probably the most exciting thing I've seen so far this winter. To get snow here in Utah, it's worth noting that we're probably going to have our most active stretch of winter weather between Sunday and Wednesday or Thursday of next week. Obviously, details at such lead times are going to be questionable, so I won't try to decode this too much, but worth putting on your radar that it does look like it's going to get a bit more active next week. That's about all for this week's update. I hope everybody has a nice week ahead, and wish you all good luck with the coming storms.